Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Aho Bata Swapachoto Gariyan Yajjivagre Vartate Namatubhyam Te Putapate Juhushashnurarya Brahmanuchurnama Grananti Yete. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 33, Text 7. Jnana, knowledge, matram, only. Param, transcendental, Brahma, Brahman. Paramatma, Paramatma, and Ishvara, the controller. I just want to make sure that I got it right. Just give me 1 second, Prabhu.
Mhm.
Yes, yeah. Now you can see it, right? Sorry, I'm reading the wrong
Yeah,
text
I can see.
here. So, yeah, let me go to the synonyms again. It's ahobata. Oh, how glorious! Swapacha, a dog eater. Hence, Gariyan, worshipable. Yat, of whom. Jivagre, on the tip of the tongue. Vartate is. Nama, the holy name. Tubhyam, unto you. Tepu tapa, practiced austerities. They. Juhu, wuh, executed fire sacrifices. Shashnu took bath in the sacred rivers. Arya, Aryans. Brahma, Anucha, studied the Vedas. Nama, the holy name. Grananti, accept. Ye, they who. Te, your. The translation is, oh, how glorious are they whose tongues are chanting your holy name. Even if born in the families of dog eaters, such persons are worshipable. Persons who chant the holy name of your Lordship must have executed all kinds of austerities and fire sacrifices and achieved all the good manners of the Aryans. To be chanting the holy name of your Lordship, they must have bathed at holy places of pilgrimage, studied the Vedas, and fulfilled everything required. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. As it is stated in the previous verse, a person who has once offenselessly chanted the holy name of the God becomes immediately eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. One should not be astonished by this statement of Srimad Bhagavatam. One should not disbelieve or think, how by chanting the holy name of the Lord can one become a holy man to be compared to the most elevated Brahmana? To eradicate such doubts in the minds of unbelievers, this verse affirms that the stage of chanting the holy name of the Lord is not sudden, but that the chanters have already performed all kinds of Vedic rituals and sacrifices. It is not very astounding, for no one in this life can chant the holy name of the Lord unless he has passed all lower stages, such as performing the Vedic ritualistic sacrifices, studying the Vedas, and practicing good behavior like that of the Aryans. All this must first have been done, just as a student in a law class is to be understood to have already graduated from general education. Anyone who is engaged in the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, must have already passed all lower stages. It is said that those who simply chant the holy name with the tip of the tongue are glorious. One does not even have to chant the holy name and understand the whole procedure, namely the offensive stage, offenseless stage, and the pure stage. If the holy name is sounded on the tip of the tongue, that is also sufficient. It is said that herein, that Nama, a singular number, one name, Krishna or Rama, is sufficient. It is not that one has to chant all the holy names of the Lord. The holy names of the Lord are innumerable, and one does not have to chant all the names to prove that he has already undergone all the processes of Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. If one chants once only, it is to be understood that he has already passed all the examinations, not to speak of those who are chanting always, 24 hours a day. It is specifically said here, Tubhyam, Tubhyam, unto you only. One must chant God's name not as the Mayavadi philosophers say, any name, such as a demigod's name or the names of God's energies. Only the holy name of the Supreme Lord will be effective. Let me read this again. It is specifically said here, Tubhyam, unto you only. One must chant God's name, not as the Mayavadi philosophers say, any name, such as a demigod's name or the names of God's energies. Only the holy name of the Supreme Lord will be effective. Anyone who compares the holy name of the Supreme Lord to the names of the demigods is called a Pashandi or an offender. The holy name has to be chanted to please the Supreme Lord and not for any sense gratification or professional purpose. I repeat, the holy name has to be chanted to please the Supreme Lord and not for any sense gratification or professional purpose. If this pure mentality is there, then even though a person is born of a low family, such as the dog eaters, he is so glorious that not only has he purified himself, but he is quite competent to deliver others. He is competent to speak on the importance of the transcendental name, just as Thakur Haridas did. He was apparently born in a family of Mohammedans, but because he was chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord offenselessly, Lord Chaitanya empowered him to become the authority or acharya of spreading the name. It did not matter that he was born in a family which was not following the Vedic rules and regulations. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Advaita Prabhu accepted him as an authority because he was offenselessly chanting the name of the Lord. Authorities like Advaita Prabhu and Lord Chaitanya immediately accepted that he had already performed all kinds of austerities, studied the Vedas, and performed all sacrifices. That is automatically understood. There is a hereditary class of Brahmanas called the Smartha Brahmanas. Let me read this again. There is a hereditary class of Brahmanas called the Smartha Brahmanas, however, who are of the opinion that even if such persons who are chanting the holy name of the Lord are accepted as purified, they still have to perform the Vedic rites or await their next birth in a family of Brahmanas so that they can perform the Vedic rituals. But actually, that is not the case. Such a man does not need to wait for the next birth to become purified. He is at once purified. It is understood that he has already performed all sorts of rites. It is the so-called Brahmanas who actually have, yeah, it is the so-called Brahmanas who actually have to undergo different kinds of austerities before reaching that point of purification. So Prabhupada is saying it is the so-called Brahmanas who actually have to undergo different kinds of austerities before reaching that point of purification. There are many other Vedic performances which are not described here. All such Vedic rituals have been already performed by the chanters of the holy name. The word Juhuvuh means that the chanters of the holy name have already performed all kinds of sacrifices. Shashnu means that they have already traveled to all the holy places of pilgrimage and taken part in purificatory activities in those places. They are called Arya because They have already finished all these requirements, and therefore they must be among the Aryans, or those who have qualified themselves to become Aryans. Aryan refers to those who are civilized, whose manners are regulated according to Vedic rituals. Let me read that again. Aryan refers to those who are civilized, whose manners are regulated according to the Vedic rituals, not according to, geographical location or genesis or, migration patterns coming from one place or moving to the other. Prabhupada is very clear here, saying that Aryan refers to those who are civilized, and civilized by what definition? Whose manners are regulated according to the Vedic rituals. Any devotee who is chanting the holy name of the Lord is the best kind of Aryan. Unless one studies the Vedas, one cannot become an Aryan, but it is automatically understood that the chanters have already studied all the Vedic literature. The specific word used here is anuchu, which means that because they've already completed all those recommended acts, they've become qualified to be spiritual masters. The very word grananti, which is used in this verse, means to be already established in the perfectional stage of ritualistic performances. If one is seated on the bench of a high court and is giving judgment on cases, it means that he has already passed all legal exams and is better than those who are engaged in the study of law or those expecting to study law in the future. In a similar way, persons who are chanting the holy name are transcendental to those who are factually performing the Vedic rituals and those who expect to be qualified, or in other words, those who are born in families of Brahmanas but have not yet undergone the reformatory processes and who therefore expect to study the Vedic rituals and perform the sacrifices in the future. There are many Vedic statements in different places saying that anyone who chants the holy name of the Lord becomes immediately freed from the conditional life, and that anyone who hears the holy name of the Lord, even though born of a family of dog eaters, also becomes liberated from the clutches of material entanglement. Wow, that's so powerful. So anyone, as Prabhupada says, anyone who chants the holy name of the Lord becomes immediately freed from conditional life, and that anyone who hears the holy name of the Lord, just by hearing, even though born of a family of dog eaters, also becomes liberated from the clutches of material entanglement. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnanandana Shalakya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we're reading from Canto 3, Chapter 33, Text 7. Let us all pay our obeisances to Sri Gurudeva and to the Supreme Lord and pray for clarity to understand the futility of repeated birth and death, so that our devotion matures and we can achieve perfection in this life. So here in this chapter, we're getting towards this is the chapter where there is a culmination of Lord Kapiladev's instructions to Mother Devahuti, and now Mother Devahuti is addressing the Lord Kapiladev, with feelings of ecstasy, with feelings of realization. She's just been receiving, on the receiving end, getting a lot of instructions that are spiritually so enlightening and so enriching from her son, who is the Lord incarnate. Profound bhakti yoga and Sankhya instructions from her own son, who is the Lord incarnate, who incarnated to liberate not only her, but all souls like us who are hearing these instructions through the disciplic succession. So, having understood that bhakti and a remembrance of the Lord, who alone can give liberation, right? She bursts into ecstasy in terms of praising and expressing her feelings, of the Lord and his devotees, leading to this verse. So it's such a beautiful. I mean, we'll get into this as we speak. Like, in terms of her astonishment is not like the astonishment in disbelief, but astonishment more in terms of the ecstasy that she's expressing for the Lord. I mean, that is astonishment. By definition, astonishment. But then that astonishment or wonder is very different than the astonishment of a disbeliever. Okay, and we'll get into that. Now, leading up to this, in the previous text, it speaks about how even if one offenselessly chants the holy name, then he or she is eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. That means they are at that highest level where they have they're qualified to perform the highest of the Vedic sacrifices. Now, this verse basically reinforces and expands that such chanters have, in effect, completed all of the required, the prerequisites in terms of all of the sacrifices, austerities, rituals, and so on. So let's read the translation one more time so that we can absorb the essence of what Mother Devahuti is expressing, to Lord Kapiladev. Right? So in the translation, Mother Devahuti is saying, "Oh, how glorious how glorious are they whose tongues are chanting your holy name. Even if born in the families of dog eaters, such persons are worshipable. Persons who chant the holy name of your Lordship must have executed all kinds of austerities and fire sacrifices and achieved all the good manners of the Aryans. To be chanting the holy name of your Lordship, they must have bathed at holy places of pilgrimage, studied the Vedas, and fulfilled everything required." So all the prerequisites are already covered. So the speaker here is Mother Devahuti. Okay, this is after having received the instructions from Lord Kapiladev. And Mother Devahuti is glorifying the devotees who chant the holy name. Right? And so she is expressing with the feeling of wonder. Aho bata. She's saying, Aho bata. She's saying, Batao. Right? She's expressing her feeling to Kapiladev, Lord Kapiladev, saying that this is so amazing, because this feeling of wonder and this feeling of astonishment is also a rasa that it is considered a secondary rasa. Just like there are the primary rasas in terms of engaging with the Lord, there are secondary rasas as well, and astonishment is also one of them, where the Lord, where the individual is expressing or having that loving exchange, expressing, in terms of expressing their ecstasy in terms of the astonishment, or rather, I should say, expressing astonishment, you know, with ecstasy. So that's an amazing feeling, as a person is expressing that, because that is again relating directly with the Lord and having that loving exchange. It's coming from the heart. It's just pouring from the heart. It's not something that is scholarly or academic or premeditated, but this is a spontaneous feeling that is coming from the heart in the form of wonder or astonishment. So there is this story about Narada Muni who, you know, um, is making his way to see the Lord, to see the Lord in Vaikuntha. And as he is about to begin his journey, he passes, comes across the Brahmana who sees him and says, "Oh, Lord Narada, so nice to see you. Please," and offers his obeisances to Narada Muni and inquires, "So Narada Muni, what brings you here?" So Narada Muni tells him, "I'm on my way to see the Lord." And immediately the Brahmana was like, "Oh, Narada Muni, can you please ask him, when I will be relieved of this material life? When will I be liberated?" So Narada Muni says, "Of course, I will ask him on your behalf. No worries." And so he moves on. And as he moves on, he, passes by the cobbler's shop. And on the way, and he sees the cobbler, working away very hard, toiling in this, miserable situation, in a small shack with barely a piece of dirty cloth that's covering his head, protecting him from the elements. And he's sweating, it's hot, and he's sitting on the floor, and he's working away, with all the shoes and footwear, and the worst of elements around him, right on the ground, in the dirt. But when he looks up and he sees Narada Muni, he is full of ecstasy. He's full of ecstasy, and he offers his obeisances to Narada Muni. And he said, "Oh, Narada Muni, it is so beautiful to see you. I'm so, fortunate to get your darshan." So Narada Muni is pleased, and he's also very compassionate as an individual, right? So he looks at the condition that this cobbler is in, and he's thinking to himself, "Look, this cobbler is such a humble, individual. He's offering his obeisances, and he's offering his respects, and he's offering his love to me. It's so spontaneously." So Narada Muni spontaneously in return asks him, says, "I'm going to see the Lord. Is there anything that you would want to know?" And the cobbler is like taken aback, and he's like, "How do I, what can I ask of the Lord? I have no position, and I'm just a cobbler. What am I going to ask the Lord for?" So instead, he tells Narada Muni, "If you, Lord Narada, please let the Lord know that I would like to offer my services to him. How can I best serve him?" So Narada Muni is taken aback. I mean, in a sense, because he's astonished in his way, to try and understand this person is sitting in an environment, in a situation in life, where he's struggling for material, for existence, even to survive. And rather than asking for the world, he is asking the Lord to see how best he can serve the Lord. So anyway, so Narada Muni, long story short, he says, "Very well, I will take your message to the Lord." And so then Narada Muni is on his way. He meets with the Lord. discusses various topics, and after some time, Narada Muni is back in this vicinity, and as he's passing by, the Brahmana sees them, and he runs up to him and says, "Okay, so Narada Muni, it's been a while. You went and saw the Lord. So what happened? What happened? What did the Lord say? Did you ask him? Did you pose my question, my request to him? Did you find out?" And Narada Muni looks at him and says, "Yeah, I did." And then the Brahmana is very eager, and he says, "So what did the Lord say? What did the Lord say?" The Lord said, "It'll be a few lifetimes before you achieve liberation, salvation. Eventually, you will get there." So the Brahmana is in total astonishment. He's like, "What? Me? I'm a high class Brahmana. And how come I have to wait a few lifetimes? Not even, this lifetime, but a few lifetimes before I can actually achieve liberation?" So he's in astonishment. And Nardana moves on. And as he's passing by, he stops by the cobbler's store and it says, "Oh," and the cobbler is again, so pleased to see Narada. He offers his respects, and Narada Muni says, "Look, I met with the Lord and I conveyed your message." And the cobbler is still, offering his obeisances, and he's not in in the mood where he is demanding from Lord Narada. But Lord Narada explains to him, and he says, "Look, the Lord was so pleased with what you had to say. He said this is going to be your very last lifetime. After this, you will achieve liberation, you will achieve salvation, and you will be in service to the Lord in the Vaikuntha planets." The cobbler is in complete astonishment. This time, see the difference here. Okay, so I'm trying to make a contrast here in terms of the astonishment. The astonishment here that the cobbler expresses is something that is coming spontaneously from his heart in terms of how someone like me, of no consequential position in life, someone who is so insignificant, and the Lord is so kind that He is so merciful that He is giving me this blessing, that I will be able to, that I will be liberated after this lifetime. So he turns around to Narada Muni and he says, "I am not surprised. The Lord is so merciful and He is so omnipotent, and He can do anything as He pleases, right? That He can even thread an elephant through the eye of a needle." So he is not just saying it, but he's expressing, the cobbler is expressing with great humility his faith in the Lord, his gratitude to the Lord. And that's true humility. That's true humility, right? So that's the difference. So, but again, the contrast and astonishment between the cobbler and the Brahmana are two different ones. One is astonished in the case of the Brahmana, where he's astonished that his ego is coming in. His false ego is kicking in and saying, "Me, I'm a Brahmana." And the Lord is saying that it'll take several lifetimes for me to get liberation. Whereas on the other hand, the cobbler, who is just a cobbler by social position, right? But his astonishment is coming from a place of humility and complete faith in the Lord, that the Lord can do anything. There's nothing beyond what the Lord can do. So that's the aho, the expression of wonder that Mother Devahuti is expressing. And then, of course, there are other key words, right, in this text, like swapacha, a dog eater, someone who's a social outcast. There are Then there is Namatubhyam. Namatubhyam, again, it is the holy name, Nama. And a Nama is a singular name, as Prabhupada is also emphasizing that Nama is a singular name. It is the name of the Lord Himself. It's directly addressing the Lord Himself, not His energies, not other demigods, but the name directly addressing the Lord Himself. Te Pustapa, Ju, Shashnu, Arya, Brahmanuchu, all of these are again completed, someone who's completed austerities, someone who's performed sacrifices, um, completed Vedic study and is leading an Aryan culture. So as we're going, through this verse, it is important for us to understand that the focus of this verse is the extraordinary glory of the Nama Sankirtana. And along with that, the insignificance of birth and external status. Right? So this verse, again, keep in mind, this verse is appearing at the conclusion of Kapila Dev's Sankhya teachings. Right? So he systematically elevated Mother Devahuti's consciousness from very fundamental concepts like what is creation, right? And what are the atoms? What is time? Explaining all of these various elements and gradually elevating a consciousness to devotional service, to bhakti. And that is, in his instructions, the most important and the way to achieve perfection in this life. So there is, like we said, there is this subtlety, and again, so that is perfection in life through what? Through devotional service. And then he goes on to speak about, how that devotional service can be performed with the right mindset, with the right consciousness as well. So it is not about birth. It's not about, being born in a high caste, right? But it is more about offenseless chanting. It is the offenseless chanting. Not just chanting, but offenseless chanting in terms of not expecting anything from the Lord, but chanting to please the Lord. That is the sacrifice. That is the yajna we are actually performing, right? And that these, when you get to this point, it is the chanting is basically saying that to get to that point, one by automatically would have completed all of the other prerequisites. So you cannot get to a PhD without having completed your bachelor's, your undergraduate degree, and then doing your master's, and then getting to your PhD, right? To embarking on that. But here is when you get to a point of chanting, similarly, is being expressed as all the prerequisites have already been met. So now the fact is, Krishna clearly says that pious work one achieves Janma Aishwarya Shrutashri, right? He says that in the Bhagavatam as well as even in the Bhagavad Gita. There are several, references to that, saying that as one engages in pious activities, it leads to higher birth, better birth, being born in an aristocratic family, being, being endowed with enormous wealth, fame, beauty, power, name it, right? But all that is punya. But having received that punya, one has to use that properly to attain the Lord. I mean, that is what is the message that Krishna is giving us. But most people will read only or hear about, oh, okay, if I perform these pious activities, then I achieve a higher life, right? So the reasons and the takeaways for being able to, perform pious activities and that pious activity leading to a better life is what is sticking in most people's heads. That is their sense of liberation. That is how they see liberation in terms of being able to get better material comforts and position, fame, power, wealth, beauty, all of those things, those kinds of opulences. when Lata Mangeshkar passed away, there were several individuals who were making, giving their eulogies. And one eulogy which struck me was made by Gulzar, who was a very famous lyricist as well. And in his words, his eulogy to Lata Mangeshkar was, the God was the Lord is so merciful that he gave Lata, and again I'm paraphrasing this, the Lord is so merciful that he gave Lata Mangeshkar, who has, one of the, she is, her voice is so unique and so celebrated throughout the previous century and the century we're in right now, that it is, in fact, her vocal cords even have, she had given permission even before she passed on to have her vocal cords be, preserved and studied by scientists. Because scientists were like, how can have such a unique voice, such a beautiful voice, such a captivating voice? Let's study her vocal cords and what's going on, what's the physiology like, typical scientific inquisitiveness. And so Lata Mangeshkar is of that stature. She's that unique, best of the best, creme de la creme when it comes to vocals and singing and music. So Gulzar was saying the Lord is so merciful that he's given her the gift of the voice. But what Lata did by using her voice was her gift back to the Lord. That is what we're trying to, get this message across, that by performing pious activities, yes, Krishna says, the scriptures say that we can achieve a better life, we can achieve better opulences. But what we do with those opulences is again actions that we consciously, with our free will, when we perform those, if we do it with the right mindset, with the right consciousness, will lead to liberation. Liberation not just materially, but spiritually. Unfortunately for us, we have this bodily conception of life, and all the modes of material nature are acting upon us. And, there are so many pieces of baggage that we bring with us in spite of having these pious credits that we tend to get completely. We are conditioned souls. We're nitya baddhas, right? So we're so conditioned, so badly conditioned that we're not able to recognize and say, hey, I have these pious credits from previous life. I've been given these gifts. No matter what stage, what position we have in this life, each and every one of us, right? There are certain pious credits that have brought us to where we are and what we're doing, what we've been given. But if we don't realize that as to what we need to do with that and being able to apply those opulences in the right manner, then it all goes to waste. So those pious credits start to fall, your karma starts to build, your bad karma starts to build, and then you go through the cycle, and then you go back. It's playing snakes and ladders, up and down, up and down, up and down, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. So I can be rich and famous. I can even be the president of the most powerful nation in the world. But if I'm not able to chant offenselessly, the scriptures are telling us that one has to chant and chant offenselessly from the heart to actually be liberated. One achieves perfection instantaneously when one chants offenselessly. So for the common person, that may be, a statement that, I have to scratch my head here. I mean, is that really possible just by chanting once? Prabhupada says, yes, yes. If one can chant, but chant offenselessly, that's the key operative word, chant offenselessly to please Krishna. Unfortunately, like I was saying, we are so conditioned that we have layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of conditioning coming over millions of lifetimes that we're not able to open our hearts. We're not able to open our hearts. Yes, we're chanting, which is great, right? Even to get to this point, we are so fortunate. And there is this causeless mercy that is flowing from Krishna through the disciplic succession, through our spiritual master, through the Vaishnavas to us, that we are even at a point where we can chant. We are chanting to even utter the holy name. We're so fortunate that we've been given this holy name to chant. But we also have a lot of conditioning that we have built over the lifetimes, the millions of lifetimes. So we have to get through that. Therefore, Kapila is also explaining that even if you have all of this conditioning, and Mother Devahuti is also expressing with ecstasy the same, saying that even if a person in general, even if a person is of the lowest birth, it can be he or she can be a chandala, can be born in a family of dog eaters. But if that person can chant the holy name with devotion, with bhakti, with faith, then the person is perfected. That person is qualified. It's as good as having performed all of the austerities, having completed all of the prerequisites. So, in this material world, it's all about Janmaishwarya, Shrutashri, right? It's all about being born in a high class family, so-called aristocratic family, and having a lot of wealth, having a good position, whether it's at work or in society, having beautiful features, being powerful, being, having all of these academic degrees, education, things like that. The yardstick of success in the present day world is judged by all of those elements. Unfortunately, that is how this material world has been evolving and continues to evolve. It's getting worse and worse and worse and worse to a point that one is so fixated in all of this that they completely forget, why am I doing all of this? We are caught in this rat race. We're constantly trying to prove to people we are the best, we are the best, we are the best. And people, please come, look at me. I'm this, I'm that. I have this pedigree and I have that pedigree. I have these degrees. I've accomplished this. Check, 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 check. And so, to a point that such a highly materialistic person may look or even hear about, the pastimes of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, for instance, just in contrast, just to give give you a contrasting example here. Such a person will, hear about Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami and may think, this person, what a loser, such a defeatist. They were in such high position, and then what happened? They probably didn't do a good job, or they probably got laid off by the Nawab, and they ended up sitting, under a tree, and they were writing not even on books, but finding leaves here and there and writing on leaves. That is the mindset of this, the materialist. They are not able to even comprehend. They're not able to think beyond because that is their frame of mind. I mean, that is all that they see. Their yardstick is very, very different than a spiritualist. That's the difference between the materialist and the spiritualist in one sense. So they don't understand that Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis had actually achieved perfection in life. That is perfection in life. It is not about the externalities. It is not about the Aryan definition, people wearing, when invaders came to India, they said, oh, these people are pheasants. Look at them. They're so uncultured. They don't even wear proper clothes. They don't wear footwear. They sit on the floor. They don't have, proper manners. Look at them. They don't even eat with a spoon and fork or a knife, but they're using their hands to eat their food. So these people are so, aboriginal. They're people who have no class. They're not Aryans. Look at us. So Prabhupada would say, Aryan doesn't mean table and chair mindset. That's not the culture. It's about perfecting your life. It is not the externals, but the internals, being able to actually achieve that perfection through engaging with the Lord, bhakti yoga or divine or engaging in devotional service. Now, even those, so there are people who perform these austerities, perform these sacrifices, so that, like we discussed earlier, to achieve better things in life or maybe better things in their next life. So there's a sect of people, there's a segment of people who think, okay, if not in this lifetime, I'll continue to do these, I'll do these pujas and I will perform these sacrifices and austerities so that in my next life, people who believe in, people who think that they can get a better life will do that so that in their next life they have better facilities. But again, the goal and the intent to achieve that goal is very, very superficial. It is on a materialistic plane. It is about getting out of this, oh, I don't like this material life that I'm leading today. I'm not in a situation where I'm enjoying it. I have to get up every morning and I'm suffering so much and this pain and that pain and I have, I can't afford this or I cannot afford that. So there are so many things. There are desires that are constantly being thwarted, expectations that are being completely busted, right? Ambitions that are not being fulfilled, and then you get into disillusionment and saying, "Oh, what is this life?" Right? So getting to that stage of just feeling sick in terms of this material life. So all that person is thinking, or that individual is thinking, is how do I get out of this horrible material situation? So taking to astrology, taking to things where they feel like they have a way out to be able to achieve something better by performing austerities, this puja and that puja. Let's go and pray to this demigod and that demigod, and just try to get into that kind of a pious mindset is what they're after. But that the scriptures tell us very, very clearly, even that is not going to take us anywhere because the bhakti is missing. We're not doing that to please Krishna. We're doing that to get out of this material situation, this horrible material situation, right? So even though such people are going after liberation, and liberation in this case is liberating themselves or getting liberation into a more comfortable situation, whether it is in this lifetime or in the next lifetime. But a devotee, see, devotees generally don't ask for liberation. They don't desire liberation. But even when we desire, when devotees desire liberation, the mindset, the intent is liberation at a spiritual level. That is, being able to spontaneously serve the Lord without any constraints. No modes of material nature acting on the individual, holding us back, creating mind share for, the next best iPhone or the next best facility, whether it is wealth or otherwise. But it is more about how can I serve the Lord spontaneously from the heart without having the mind control me and say, no, this is not the time, do it later. No, you don't have the money to do this. No, you don't have the health to do that. Stifling our devotion to the Lord, right? So that's the spiritual liberation that we're talking about, getting out of that situation where the devotee can actually engage, have loving exchanges with the Lord spontaneously, regardless of time, place, circumstance, just spontaneously. opening the heart always, keeping that heart open always, so that we can have loving exchanges with the Lord. That's how a devotee is looking for liberation. So liberation in the definition of a devotee is on the spiritual level, not on the material level. So in this verse and in the purport too, Prabhupada is very clearly saying one does not have to, worship all the various demigods, does not have to call out, all of the names. And even for that matter, even calling out the names, multiple names of the Lord, even that is not required. I mean, see, it's so beautiful because the Lord himself has innumerable names, infinite, right? And one may or may not be able to remember all those names or even know all of those names, and may feel like, oh my God, I am not able to do that. Even that, Krishna is saying, you don't need that. You just need to address me by just my name. It's just a singular name, the Nama, right? And even that is sufficient. If it is done offenselessly, then that is sufficient to achieve perfection, just in that moment itself. That is the power of the holy name. That is the glory of the whole. And not only taking that to the next level, right? So perfection in life, that also means that all the qualities that go with it, all the good qualities, right? Like patience, like humility, right? Utsaha, Nischaya, Dharya, right? All of those qualities that, one and capabilities that one needs to imbibe and have to make further progress is also given. It happens, it manifests itself. That's the beauty. And not just that, it's not just about purifying one's own self, but also being able to uplift others also. Right? So the beauty is, see, when we're given this Harinam by our spiritual master, it is not something that is given procedurally, mechanically for us to, know, okay, this is the Mahamantra or this is, the holy name that we need to chant. Yes, partly true, but it's not something that is done at on a material plane. Why? Because when the spiritual master gives us at the time of initiation, he's formally giving us the holy name. The holy name is being given with his faith infused in the holy name. So that's the beauty, right? Because it is said, Shraddha, right? Leading up to Vajana Kriya and, Sadhu Sangha and then Anarthana, Nivritti and all of the various stages leading up to Prema Bhakti, right? But the first one that is mentioned is Shraddha, right? Faith. For us to have that initial faith also, we have maybe a spark, but that spark is also fanned or is fanned by the faith that our spiritual master has in the holy name. He's investing his faith into the holy name that he's giving us. So we need to regard that and we need to consider that. We need to take that very, very, very seriously in our lives. We're so fortunate. We are in the maybe 0.0000001% in this entire population in the world to be given that name with faith infused, already given to us. It's been given to us on not just a silver platter, not just a gold platter, not just a platinum platter, but the platter the highest, which we may not even know what that platter is made of, but it is of the highest pure platform where we've been given that name infused with that faith. Now, that faith is what we need to build on. And how do we do that? By, sadhu sangha. As we associate with pure devotees, that faith builds. It builds and builds and builds and builds. And with that faith comes the taste for the holy name. And it's a regenerative process. And when we get to that point, as this verse is saying, as Mother Devahuti is saying, is that automatically all of the good qualities, automatically all of the austerities and sacrifice and all of this, those have already been performed. This person who's chanting, we're getting to that stage, even in the initial stages. But what to speak of getting to the stage of offenseless chanting, getting to that stage is automatically including all of this. Boom, you get it. You get all of those good qualities, you get all of the benefits of all of that. But here, most importantly, those benefits are not for yourself, but to be able to chant in a way that you can have a loving exchange with the Lord. I mean, that's the beauty. That's the beauty. The perverted optics of that is in this material world. Oh, I'm able to, get a better life. I'm able to, I don't have to work. I can just sit in my room or sit in my house, and I can in the lap of luxury, and I can, I can call out the names of the Lord. No, that's not what it is. It is like the mindset of the cobbler. He's always thinking of Krishna and how to serve Krishna. He's thinking of ways in which he can serve Krishna regardless of his circumstance. That is the kind of spiritual liberation, offenseless chanting. That is the kind of perfection in life that a devotee strives through chanting. That is the power of the holy name. So it's a very profound, a very deep subject matter that needs to be contemplated. We need to meditate on that on a regular basis, on a daily basis. And every time we pick up the beads to chant, that is something that we need to think about. Not about, I need to complete my 16 rounds today. That's my commitment, that's my duty. Do your beads, chant on your beads like you mean it. That's what I tell myself. Chant on your beads like you really mean it. You're crying out to Krishna, you are chanting for Krishna, you're chanting thinking about Krishna, you're chanting remembering Krishna. You chant so that you want to have that loving exchange with Krishna, that direct relationship, that direct communication with Krishna. That's your medium. Then your devotional service is perfected. And when your devotional service is perfected, your life is perfected. When you say life, it's not about this material lifetime. It's your, at the soul, a level of the soul, your eternal soul, your constitutional position. So this is what this verse is talking about. And again, I know I am 1 minute away from running out of time here, so I'm going to speed up a little bit and also focus on it's not about the birth. That aspect I'd like to cover real quick, because one may think that one has to be born in a Brahmana family to be able to achieve perfection in life. No, that is not true, right? And we have several examples. We have several examples from the Bhagavatam. We have several examples from other scriptures, as well as even in contemporary life, right? One example from even the Bhagavatam in the 10th canto, Krishna is with the Gopas, with the cowherd boys, and he creates a situation where the cowherd boys are feeling hungry, and so he nudges them and says, "Why don't you go? Hey, there are some brahmanas out there. Why don't you go ask for some food?" And there were a group of brahmanas who were performing austerities, performing these pujas, doing this yajna for several weeks, months, whatever. So they were completely into it. And so Krishna sends the Gopas and says, "Go, ask them for food. Maybe they'll be able to give you some food." So they go, the Gopas go, they love Krishna so much, and they're not even thinking twice. They boom, they go straight to the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas are not even paying attention to them. They're going, Om, Om, Swaha, Swaha, Swaha. So they're going they're completely engrossed in that. And after a while, the boys, the Gopas are like, please, we're here, we're hungry, can you give us some food? And they're like, get away, can't you see we're doing something very important? We're performing these sacrifices, we're right in the middle of the yagya, and you're asking for food, go find it somewhere else. So the boys are so disappointed. The Gopas come back to Krishna and say, Gopa, Krishna, this is what happened. Krishna smiled and he said, don't worry about that. Why don't you go and ask their wives? Go speak to the wives of those Brahmanas. And the Gopas don't second guess Krishna. They go and actually, meet with the wives of the Brahmanas and explain and say, we're so hungry. Can you please take care of us? Can you please get us some food? And the wives just drop everything that they're doing and they actually make food fresh. 4 varieties of food that are prescribed. They make that and, send, feed the Gopas, and the Gopas are, they just share it with Krishna and Balaram, and, they have a great time. And so the difference here is that the Brahmanas, in spite of being very, very learned and executing, the yagyas to perfection, the intent is lost, the goal is lost. Whereas the women, the wives of the Brahmanas, who were not trained in the scriptures, who did not know how to even recite the mantras, out of their pure love and affection for Krishna, they're so attracted to Krishna. The moment they came and said, Krishna and Balaram and we are all hungry, the boy said, the Gopa said, the wives just dropped everything and they made fresh food then and there in no time. That was because it came from the heart. So when the Brahmanas went home and found out that this had happened, they were so guilty. They were so ashamed of themselves. And they said, Dhik janma nastri trivrat yattat dhik vratam dhik bahu natam. They said, hell with this janma, this with this threefold, benediction that we have, being born in a high caste, being Brahmanically initiated, being, being given the qualification of being able to perform Vedic sacrifices. Hell with the vow of celibacy that we took. Hell with all of those. Bahunatam, meaning hell, I mean, they were saying even this extreme erudite knowledge that we have, that extensive knowledge, even that, hell with all of that. Bahukulam or dhikkulam. Dhikkulam, hell with the, even the kulam, the kula that we're talking about, the aristocratic lineage, even that, just hell with all of that. In spite of having all of this knowledge to be able to perform these intricate austerities and sacrifices, these ritualistic activities, finally it boils down to just that. It's just ritualistic. It's not from the heart. It's not from the heart. It's not really connecting with Krishna in a way to please Krishna from the heart. It's more ritualistic, right? Instead, we drove the boys away. In other words, we drove Krishna away. So they realized, they came to a realization. They begged for forgiveness from Krishna and said, see, we are Brahmanas and we couldn't understand you, whereas our wives could. We're so ashamed of ourselves. Of course, what happens in the 10th canto and when this description is given is also, which I found quite amusing, was these Brahmanas were so ashamed, they felt so bad and they begged for forgiveness, but they didn't actually go in person to see Krishna and fall at his feet and ask for forgiveness. They even had that opportunity. They were still putting themselves before Krishna, meaning they were so afraid that if they went and met with Krishna, Kamsa would come and kill them. Kamsa would come and torture them, take away everything that they had, imprison them, all of the various things that Kamsa was famous for. So even at that point in time, the Brahmanas, even though they were remorseful and they were feeling so ashamed of themselves, it still didn't drive them to go and beg for forgiveness from Krishna, get the darshan of Krishna in person. They still put their fears, their anxieties, and themselves in the middle, in the forefront. So Mother Devahuti is absolutely right. Her astonishment is in praise, is in ecstasy that, one who can chant the holy name to get to that stage, that offenseless chanting means that person has already performed all of these things. It doesn't need any further qualification. Chanting, in other words, chanting the holy name, in other words, is the culmination of all of these Vedic sacrifices. So that is an important takeaway for us today. It's not about birth. It's not about where we've been. It's about taking it from here. What do we have to be able to recognize, realize, and actually apply ourselves with realization that we need to chant and chant offenselessly. And with that offenseless chanting, we will have achieved perfection in life. That's the biggest takeaway, that chanting is, I repeat, the culmination of all Vedic sacrifices. It is not that because I'm getting to chanting and I'm getting into a better life and, I'm born in an aristocratic family and therefore, I'm getting to a point where I get qualified to perform these sacrifices. No, none of that. Rather, one who gets to a point of chanting offenselessly, regardless of position, regardless of time, place, circumstance, has already accomplished, has all the prerequisites, check, in terms of all of the austerities and qualifications that are required. And Krishna makes himself available, makes himself known, makes himself available to you directly. So I'd like to leave you with those takeaways. This is a takeaway from me as well. We need to take our chanting very, very, very seriously because of all the things that we discussed. And with this chanting, again, it's not going to, for us, for at least most of us, I can speak for myself, it's a journey. It's a journey because there is so much baggage that I'm carrying, over millions of lifetimes. As much as I desire, my desire may not be strong enough. In many ways, compare myself, to the Brahmanas who felt so remorseful, so ashamed of themselves, but still didn't have the guts to put themselves on the sidelines because they felt like they were risking their lives by going and seeing Krishna, that Kamsa would come. Hey, but see, the mindset should be, I'm going to see Krishna, I'm surrendering to Krishna, I have the shelter of Krishna. Why do I need to worry about all the other anxieties that are coming and hitting me? But Krishna is there to protect me. And when we are in the shelter of Krishna, there is no question of asking for protection. It's automatic. You're already there. You're in the shelter of Krishna. He's taking care of everything around you. He's not only taking care of you, he's taking care of your family and everything else. So chanting offenselessly gives you that opportunity to actually engage with Krishna eternally, rebuilding that eternal relationship, which is already there. It's actually there. It's just a question of, it's in an unmanifest form. We need to remember, as Srila Prabhupada says, we need to do that so that we can chant properly. And by doing that, all the qualities that are of a pure devotee, Krishna will bless us. He will automatically, he will very graciously, mercifully, endow us with all of those good qualities that is speaking, that is inherent and intrinsic to any pure devotee. And when that happens, you're not only purifying yourself, but you're also uplifting everyone around you and everything around you in the world. So we have a role to play, not only for ourselves, but in terms of being able to give what we have to others. And, my Guru Maharaj would always say, you cannot give something that you do not have. So first we need to, imbibe that mindset truthfully, introspect every now and then, hit that pause button just to make sure that we are doing the right things and we are imbibing that mindset, that feeling that has to come from the heart, not from here, but from here, right? Not from the mind, not at a level of the brain, but from the heart. Open our hearts to be able to get to that level of chanting. So, I know we don't have folks right now to be able to get into a discussion. Again, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions offline as well. Haridas Thakur, in this contemporary life of ours, not so long ago, was born in a Muslim family. He was born in a family where chanting the names of Krishna were completely prohibited. He was in an environment of oppression from foreign invaders who wanted to impose their ideology and convert with force, coerce, the citizens to completely drop their religion, give up their religion, give up their beliefs, give up, their, practices, spiritual practices to follow their ideology. And in spite of all of that, Haridas Thakur stood up to that oppression. He was beaten in several marketplaces for not following the ideology of the invaders and for taking up the name of the Lord. And in a way that was completely confusing for these people. It was intimidating for these people because even after being beaten in so many marketplaces, 21 or 22 marketplaces, he was virtually, he was still gleefully, blissfully, chanting the holy names. So when he is considered the Namacharya and blessed by Advaita and Sri Advaita as well as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is not academic or it is not by chance. It clearly proves to us, it is evidence that it is not birth, because faith is, when I say faith, I'm talking about religion in this case. Religion is tied to, taking birth in a Hindu family or in a Christian family or in a Jewish family. That's in this birth. Were you a Jew in your previous life? Who knows? Most likely not. We don't even know if we were in the human form in the previous life, for that matter. So if we're given this opportunity and we're given this evidence, the truth of understanding the absolute truth, then there is no question, right? We should take this opportunity very seriously, and we should take this up with that sentiment. So with that, let me stop rambling, and I wish you a very happy and Krishna conscious week ahead. We're starting in the year. We're still pretty early. We're still in the beginning of January here. So let's renew, our with all the other commitments that we're making. Make this one of the most important, if not the most important, due to other reasons, health reasons, or other. Let this be, something that we want to contemplate on, meditate on, and continue to improve the quality of our chanting. I pray for all of us, and I am thankful and grateful to each and every one of you, for giving me your association and for bearing with me. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Hare Krishna.